Alright, ladies, gentlemen, and whoever you choose to be, my name is Ron and welcome to part 2 of our dabble in the mysterious world of the Darkside detective. So last time nga na-introduce tayo kung gaano ka weird tong laro na to and you just never know what might just show up. You've got unaliving nannies, historical figures, and even a talking toilet. And in this episode, well, tutuloy lang natin. So let's get the mysteries rolling, starting with Police Farce. We start this one in our office. Yung nakikita natin pagbukas mo ng game. Dooley tells us about a retirement party for a certain McNugget. Wala naman masyado nangyari. All we really check out here is a new character named Dick Brickman. We head on outside para makita itong police station and it's pretty run down. We check the broken ceiling fan and grab the first item, the motor. And then we click the coffee machine to get, well, coffee. A rather strange item to get in a coffee machine. We entered the room to our right and find ourselves in the office of one Detective McKing, who has a way nicer office than us and look, may mga trophy pa na magaganda. Syempre, because magaganda yung mga trophy, we take one and get the helmet trophy. Habang papunta sa debriefing room, we grab a busted fire extinguisher. We then go inside the debriefing room and oh my god, the gifts are on fire. Oh, and there's cake. So I used the fire extinguisher on the fire, but it's not pressurized. So to repressurize the fire extinguisher, we grab the whipped cream next to the cake, combine it with the extinguisher to get the fixed fire extinguisher. Do not try this at home. But anyways, we use that on the fire and in typical Twin Lakes fashion, it's put out. Putting out the fire reveals a mysterious urn na binili ni Dooley as a retirement gift from a mysterious China shop. Well, apparently that urn had gremlins in it and the lid is burnt off. So we grab the gremlin urn and begin our search for the missing gremlins. We head out to our right to finally meet this Detective McKing, and he seems like a douche. But not the good kind. We ignore him for now and head towards the reception area and meet Officer Cal, a sniffer dog that only sniffs out candy. We talk to the receptionist Officer Banks, then grab the laxatives from the medicine cabinet next to him. Next, pumunta naman tayo sa mga holding cells to grab the fire hose. Looking into one of the cells to find, well, Engineer Tam. How he got a knife in his cell, however, we don't know, pero since hindi yan pwede, we take the knife for ourselves. And head into the next cell to find Roy Jones, still smoking his cigars. We grab his matches again and head on to cell number 3 to find a rat in witness protection. Get it? He's a rat. So marami na tayong dalang gamit and honestly hindi ko alam kung saan magsisimula mga paggagamitan nitong mga to. We head into the shooting range and we encounter our first gremlin. And he has a gun. Lucky for us, he's a bad shot, so we use the knife on him. Okay, it doesn't actually work, pero can you blame me for trying? We can't really do anything here for now, so we head elsewhere to figure out what we need to do. Nagsayang ata ako ng mga 2 minutes just mindlessly clicking things, pero I do end up in this patch where we see another gremlin chewing on the wires. It is here that I combine the laxatives with the coffee to make spiked coffee. Now who can I use that on? Maybe a certain Detective McKing, perhaps. Now I don't know what that does for me exactly other than sweet petty retribution, but I'll take it. Moving on, or not moving on because I spend the next few minutes trying to figure out kung ano yung susunod na gagawin. I even combined the helmet with the fire hose to create the diving helmet, which I also don't know where to use. But anyways, we head back to the garage and finally we get to use the knife on something. Well, kind of. It doesn't actually work again, so we'll try something else. We head to the left and meet Gary Plinkman, which I only just now realize has a similar last name to the ghost we met earlier. Maybe he's a murderer. Or maybe an ancestor, I don't know, pero we do get a monkey wrench from him. Before we leave though, we do fix the water system that connects to the sprinkler. And this isn't as hard as the library one, to be honest. A few turns here and there and the water is back up and running. Once we get that out of the way, we go anywhere but here, pero not before using the monkey wrench on the vent and dropping the entire vent on McKing's police vehicle. Not only that, but we also take his hood. We go back to the shooting range, place the hood to where the gremlin is shooting. It fires, the bullet ricochets into the electrical box, we use the matches that triggers the sprinkler system which electrifies the gremlin, and then we grab his corpse. Going back to the garage, nalaman ko na yung wires na nakuha natin earlier is for the junction box. This introduces us to the second puzzle for this area, which is basically matching colors without overlapping. That also electrifies the other gremlin, so we take his corpse. Now, the next part of this took me a while to figure out, but apparently you're meant to find a bobby pin inside this patch, then use it on the motor to get a magnet. Afterwards, you use the magnet on the evidence room door, which unlocks it. Inside, we find the last gremlin. Now, we figure we have to knock it out somehow, so we grab the most efficient thing inside this room, gas grenades. So we wear the makeshift diving helmet, then proceed to gas the poor bastard, then take his corpse. You know, for good guys, we are surprisingly brutal when given the chance. But anyways, matapos lahat yan, we shove the poor gremlins into the urn and our case is closed. Never mind. Exploring the place a bit more to find a way to make a new urn, we come across a pot of clay near where Gary Plinkman was. We take it because if I remember correctly, a certain office has a pottery wheel for some reason. So we fill the pot of clay with water so we can mold it and get a new urn. But we need to seal it with magic or else it'll just break again. So we go back to the evidence room to use the magic book we saw earlier and turn our urn into a magic urn. Finally, we shove the poor gremlins into the new magic urn, go back to the party only to discover that there's no cake left. And unfortunately, the cake is a lie. The next case is called Loch Mess, and I guess it's pretty self-explanatory. So we drive up to Camp What Am I Doing Here, where apparently some kids and Dooley are camping. We head inside and immediately get our first item, the wooden plank. We talk to the guy named Jamie, and he tells us that the campsite got its name from some terrible massacre. But the camp itself is also home to some kind of lake monster, which the way Jamie describes it is basically every camping in the forest monster that has ever existed ever. But anyways, we head a little further inside to find the campers. And one of them is Devin, the kid from the library. So Dooley did keep his word about helping him out. The campers tell us that Dooley is missing, which is why he couldn't solve the problem on his own. So realizing that our partner is in danger, we track him down and possibly save him if needed. We go to the cabin in the woods to find clues of his whereabouts. First, we head to the cafeteria where the not-so-nice lunch lady lets us have the pot. We then go to the bedrooms where investigating the bunk beds gives us one of the campers' marshmallow stash and some props from the box. Playing around with the things we have now, I somehow managed to put the marshmallows into the pot, which gives us a pot of marshmallows. We go to the office and notice a really high-tech computer in the corner. Suddenly, it talks. So this is Betty, who is a reference to HAL 9000 from the 2001 Space Odyssey. He really doesn't tell us much because we need a password. So for now, we check the less advanced PC next to him. Inside, we find the password, conveniently is also password, and a clue as to who might have taken him. A guy named Nigel who's been messaging Dooley non-stop. He also claims to be a member of the Blood Wolves, but so far no one we've seen is named Nigel. We input the password to the HAL knockoff and he tells us that Dooley found a Wi-Fi signal and tracked it across the lake. We also get a pretty fun reference when we try to commandeer the information.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
But Devin decides to commandeer old Betty, and now we get to do a minigame. If you've ever played Pokemon and used the dowsing machine to find things, this is probably very familiar. Essentially, you click around to where the signal pings the most frequent, which determines the route where Dooley went. Easy enough. Eventually, we complete the minigame and receive the map to find where Dooley headed. We head off to the lakeside where we first grab an empty gas can for some reason and talk to the strange duo in front of us. This is Barry and Larry. They're investigating the lake for the monster because they have nothing better to do. Oddly relatable. Anyways, we need that boat which has no fuel and a hole in it. I head back to the cafeteria to grab some tubing at the aquarium. Let's hope the fish doesn't need it. Then combine it with the gas can to get a siphoning kit. And I think I know where this is heading. I head towards the only thing with fuel here for 100 miles, but not before boiling the pot of marshmallows on the fire, which gives us the melty marshmallow goop. We go to the police vehicle, siphon the gas, and then go back to the boat. Apparently, the melted marshmallow is combined with the plank, which makes it sticky. That fixes the hole in the boat, and with the gas we siphoned off, the boat is now functional and we head off. We make our way across the lake, and on the other side, we find Dick Brickman, who is also investigating the lake. We go past him towards the forest, where I figure out where the props and costume were meant to be used. More on that later. We move forward and find a totally not suspicious at all cave that has absolutely nothing inside it at all. We found Dooley. Oh, and there's a monster here as well. So this guy's name is Nigel, the Loch Ness Monster? But we're not exactly in Loch Ness, so I guess he's just monster. But anyways, he needs our help, because apparently Dick Brickman is actually pretty close to finding him. So we need to find a way to get rid of him. After our discussion, we grab the ink and the sticky tape from Nigel's table and we head off. We head back to Dick Brickman and make a fake sighting using the ink and map to give to Brickman, and he heads off, leaving the camera, which we take. Then we go to the forest, have the kids dress up as Bigfoot again, and take their picture, which gives us the photographic evidence. We then give that to Larry and Barry, they leave, and from their cooler we get the tinfoil. Then using the tape and tinfoil, we solve a short puzzle that gives us a tinfoil hat. Finally, we bring the hat over to Nigel, who finally feels safe from the government, and he goes to wherever Godzilla is. And now that that's solved, we go back to our car and...
Let's gather around the campfire.
The next case we tackle is called Dawn of the Dead, and is actually the last part of the main missions of this game. Essentially, the chief summoned everyone, a code red has been declared, and the entire city is in panic. Citizens are attacking one another almost like they're zombies. Our suspicions are immediately confirmed when we get a report from Dick Brickman, who is interviewing a zombie. We have 3 options on where to go, but in hindsight, I don't think we're actually allowed to go to the mansion until after the first 2 are cleared. When McQueen and Dooley get to the museum, the doors are pretty smashed in. We head inside to see a dinosaur skeleton. Of course, me being a dinosaur lover, it didn't take 2 seconds for me to observe the skeleton and realize there was something to get from it. Moving forward, we head to the ancient Egypt section to find a reanimated mummy. Observing the smashed glass case reveals that an item called the Gem of Osiris was stolen, Osiris being the Egyptian death god. We grab the scepter on top of the sarcophagus, use it on the T-Rex skeleton, and get bird bones. Randomly clicking on everything, I eventually find out that the bones are actually supposed to be some form of lockpicking kit for the curiosity cabinet. Honestly, at this point, don't think about it too much. We get a minigame of mix and match and open the cabinet to reveal a brain. Well, it's a good way to lure zombies. So we grab the brain jar, place it inside the sarcophagus, which does work on the mummy, surprisingly. He goes for it, and once inside, we close the case behind him. But we're not done. Now we have to find who stole the Gem of Osiris and bring all the dead back to rest. Our next stop, Chinatown. So here in the Chinatown part of town, I swear there's a Chinatown in every part of the world, we find out that we'd investigated this place before, and this is where the gremlin urn came from. We observe the trash can, standard RonJos protocol, and get a broken racket. We head inside the shop, and what the f are those? We also get some healing crystals and a dream catcher. And now here's the part where my remaining brain cells go into overdrive. I use the crystals on the dream catcher to get string, which I then attach to the broken racket to get a net. Then I use the net to grab the monkey paws, yes, that's exactly what those are, and finally I put them inside a chest for safety purposes. So by doing all that, we managed to get Mr. Wang to finally talk to us. He tells us that some goons surrounded by a green haze floated in and stole some ritual components. Based on the description, we summarize that these may be Darksiders. Now thinking about that for a moment, combining that alongside the Gem of Osiris that was also stolen, indicates that someone is probably trying to resurrect something. With that information, we head to the third location on our list, the mansion. So this particular mansion once belonged to some mafia don long ago, but has since been abandoned. We head inside and find some strange equipment. Seeing as no one's looking, we tamper with it and take the battery inside of it. Then put it back inside because we don't know what to do with it yet. But going inside the mansion itself, we find another zombie and a person stuck inside a closet. We need to help the person in the closet, and it just so happens that the zombie guy is standing below a chandelier conveniently held by a rope. Now we just need a way to cut said rope, so we continue on. We go to the kitchen where we first find some candles inside one of the cupboards. We then grab the battery again for some reason, then place the candle on the table right below the rope. Now, I get stuck here for who knows how long, but eventually I find the steel wool inside one of the cups in the kitchen. Combining that with the battery, I make a fire starter of some kind. I use it on the candle and it all comes crumbling down on the poor butler. Rest in peace. Again. We find out that the person inside was actually Raxa, but we kind of need to leave because the place is kind of on fire now. We go outside, leaving the house to burn completely to the ground, and talk to Raxa, who has now decided to become a ghostbuster. She tells us that she wanted to investigate the area after a storm similar to the one at the library occurred. She notices people with strange accents looking for the dawn. Raxa's machine reveals that the people looking for the dawn were in fact Darksiders. Whoever stole the Gem of Osiris and the ritual components are planning to resurrect the dawn. And there's only one place where they'd go next: the graveyard. Heading to the graveyard, we look through the telescope and find zombies and the Darksiders readying to bring the dawn back. We try to radio in some backup, but unfortunately the entire city is in turmoil. So I guess it's up to us. We head further into the graveyard and get a closer look at the zombies. Clicking on the church tower, we see a pastor calling for help. Also clicking the police car gives us our first item, the nightstick. So continuing forward, we look at the dumpster, standard RonJos procedure, to see an oil can. But we can't exactly reach it yet, even with the nightstick. So we'll have to come back to that later. While trying to figure out what to do next, I randomly start clicking the nightstick on the zombies until one of them drops a zombie arm. We go back to the dumpster, use the arm, and get the oil can. We then use that on the dumpster's wheels and push it out of the way, revealing a manhole. We figure that the best way to cover ground is to split up. So we decide to go over the wall while Dooley takes the sewers. And finally, for the first time ever, we get to play as Officer Dooley. We press forward with our new character unlock and meet quite a few interesting individuals. We first meet a sewer gator watching TV and even Pennywise's incredibly distant cousin, Poundsmart. Then we meet Gary Plinkman again, this time telling him and his co-worker to go home. And once that's done, we grab the Kango hammer, is that really what they call it? Go forward and then use the jackhammer on the sewer gates. Meanwhile, back up top, we can't progress further because the Darksiders are raining bullets on anyone that gets close, so we have to find another way in. We go inside the shack in the distance where we meet a guy named Smithy. He lets us have one of his boots, and after talking to him, he agrees to somewhat prepare us for battle, as he also gives us his gas mask. Moving on, we head towards the water tower and grab one of the loose scaffolding. We go towards the church, but it is blocked by a zombie horde. But there is a broken window that we might get through to. Running around for a bit, I discovered that combining the scaffolding with the boots gives us, well, stilts. Well, it works, I guess. At the very least, we're tall enough to reach the window and finally make our way inside the church. Here, we meet Agent McScream again, which means Chief Ghoulie can't be far behind. And he isn't. But once we see him, he doesn't look too good. Unfortunately, he's been shot, and the only way to help him is with some purified water. We head inside the vestry to find some. However, all we find is a shredder and a letter opener for our trouble. Upstairs, we meet the pastor in question, Farrelly, who is basically Matt Riddle if he became a man of God instead of a man of weed. Or he didn't become a wrestler, he's still a man of weed. We check his bag and grab the scuba tank, which when combined with the gas mask makes a scuba kit. We talk to Matt Riddle some more and he's more than happy to give us some holy water, which we then give to Ghoulie, which helps him out a bit. Now we need to get out of the church, but the zombies will probably tear us limb from limb. So we need to get by them somehow, and the window is not exactly an option anymore. Eventually, I figure out that you're meant to use the leather opener to scrape some of the sensor incense and put it on our suit. Then we go to the vestry again, shred our beautiful suit to acceptable zombie aesthetic, and finally we talk to the pastor again and he paints our face green. And finally, we are out of there. We talk to the zombies a bit and somehow we manage to convince them to follow us towards the Darkside gangsters. They go inside the crypt out of fear and they drop their car keys. We chase them inside to find out that we are too late. Al Corpsone is alive. He exposes our disguise and just like that, the zombies turn on us and we're helpless. But not quite, because conveniently just below us, Dooley has been drilling for almost 20 minutes. He finally breaks the gate only for the crypt above him to collapse. And now we have to save Dooley from the rubble. We grab the magical paint and use the ladder to cross the gap and head off. We realize that we can use the water tower to drown the zombies if we can just holify the water. But we also need to make sure that our partner doesn't drown in the process. So we go back inside and give him the scuba gear to get him ready. We talk to Farrelly again and he agrees to bless the water. And he also gives us a life ring. Now that that's done, we rev up the car and send it towards the water tower, sending all the holy water towards the crypt, thus bringing the undead to rest once more. But wait, the Dawn lives and has Dooley in his clutches. So now we need to find a way to send him back to the other side. We use the life ring and the paint to make a makeshift portal of some kind, and after copying all the symbols, we throw the life ring over the Dawn, which sends him to the dark side, and finally, this crisis is solved. We go back outside to see that the Brightside division has also arrested the Darksiders and even had one of the perpetrators reverse the zombie ritual to lessen his sentence. And finally, after an exhausting night, we go back to our office where we see Detective McKing receive a medal on live TV. What a ass! And the case is closed. And that was the Darkside Detective. Or at least it would be, pero like I said before, there are 3 more bonus cases available na I will do in the last part of this trilogy. And I will also save my detailed final thoughts on the game as a whole in that one. This was certainly a long one, but I certainly hope na nag-enjoy kayo. I know I certainly did. Ito na ata yung pinakamahabang script na nasulat ko this time around. Pero next time on the Darkside Detective, we'll tackle the last 3 cases. Salamat sa panonood and I'll see you when I see you.